Look, at the end of the day, pharmacists don't hate giving vaccine. They don't hate helping people. What they hate is feeling overwhelmed, undervalued, and unable to provide the level of care that they know patients deserve. You may have heard it before that pharmacists don't like giving vaccines. But what if I told you that's not even close to the full story? Well, in today's video, we're going to be diving into one of the most misunderstood issues in the world of pharmacy: why giving vaccines is more challenging than you might think. Before I jump into this, I want to be super clear. This isn't about pharmacists being anti-vaxxers. They do exist, or not even wanting to help people. It's way more complicated than that. First, we need to talk about burnout. In a 2021 study from UIC Pharmacy, researchers dropped some bombshells about the state of pharmacist burnout, and folks, it's not pretty. We're not just talking about a little bit tired or a little bit stressed. We're talking full-blown burnout. And get this, there was virtually no difference between the burnout among ambulatory care pharmacists and non-health system pharmacists. One of the authors, Dr. Brianna McQuad, put it this way: to see these numbers was scary, and it highlighted what healthcare looks like today. But it's not just this study, guys. The journals in healthcare have been looking at this for decades, years. And in fact, their 2021 Salary and Job Satisfaction Survey paints a very similar picture. They found that there was a significant rise in the portion of pharmacists reporting severe stress in 2021. That makes sense. It was a pandemic, right? A quarter of pharmacists reporting being very stressed at work. This stress is having a damaging effect on the morale across the profession. Now, that was the picture in 2021, but recent surveys are still proving it over and over again, especially true in the Well-Being Index report. If you're interested in exploring more about the burnout rates across different pharmacy practice settings and how that role is impacted, check out our other in-depth video on the subject. Now let's talk about vaccines and how it all fits together. You may have seen headlines like "Pharmacists don't want vaccines" or "Pharmacists hate clinical practice," but that's not the whole story. It is not that pharmacists hate healthcare or hate helping people. It's the environment most pharmacists are working in. You know, one pharmacist on a forum summed it up pretty well. They said they wanted to, quote, punch the person in the face who advocating for letting pharmacists give vaccines in pharmacies. Now, that's a bit extreme, but it got upvoted like 400 times with over 200 comments. This tells us that something is seriously wrong here, and it's not with that pharmacist or with the attitude of many pharmacists. You see, pharmacists are overworked and overstressed. They're being asked to do more and more with less and less. And it's not just about counting pills anymore. They're managing complex medication regimens. They're counseling patients. They're educating patients about insurance problems. They're dealing with insurance issues. And now, on top of all of that, because of the pandemic, they were asked to be on the front line of public health and give vaccines to people. According to the UIC study, burnout is tied to an increased risk of depression, alcohol dependence, suicidal ideations, a loss of productivity, and also divorce, and sadly, even a higher risk of suicide. On an organizational level, it leads to horrible things like medication errors, patient harm, and reduced patient satisfaction. And get this, according to the CDC data, this is a research project that I did on my own. You can check out my blog on the website, but pharmacists have the 14th highest suicide rate out of over 480 occupations. We as pharmacists are twice as likely to commit suicide compared to the general public. That's not just like fire alarm, that's like tornado siren, okay? This is a crisis. And here's another wrinkle in this. The pharmacy profession is going through a bit of an identity crisis. On the one hand, there's a push to expand clinical practices where like pharmacists are doing services, prescribing medicine, things like that, and becoming more involved in direct patient care. On the other hand, many pharmacists are still tied to the traditional role of dispensing medicines. And if you've ever talked to someone who is questioning like who they are and their identity, it can get a little bit annoying if they've been doing it for 25 years. And that's what pharmacy has been doing. We've been trying to figure out who we are and reinvent ourselves, but honestly, the public doesn't want it. The public wants us behind the counter, filling their scripts, answering their questions. What's the solution? Well, it's not simple. And here are a few ideas. We need a unified voice in the workplace. We need state laws to be passed that allow pharmacists to do their best jobs possible. Let them focus on providing patient care. We need to have tough conversations with lawmakers and big pharmacy employers about what needs to happen for pharmacy to be safe, to have it be a safe profession where pharmacists aren't rushed and actually can take breaks. I mean, it's crazy to say that just a few years ago, it was very common that you would never get a break in your pharmacy job. I know pharmacists firsthand that had to wear Depends diapers. We need to reimagine what pharmacy could be with the big players, but we can't do that without a unified voice. We need to find a balance between clinical practice and traditional dispensing roles. We need an organizational level solution here. You know, in that study I referenced, Dr. Jenny Jarrett said that self-care like yoga or exercise is just another thing added to a person's to-do list. And when they're already feeling exhausted, that's just counterproductive. I couldn't agree more. I've been saying it for years that meditation is just another thing. You don't need to do it. To fix burnout, you have to do less. That means administrative leave. That means a super long vacation. That means turning off your email when you get home. We need systemic changes. We need to address the disconnect between academia pushing for more clinical roles and the realities of day-to-day pharmacy practice, which often does not have a whole lot of clinical responsibility. We need to improve staffing levels to ensure not just fair compensation for overtime work, but that pharmacists have the adequate support from fellow pharmacists and technicians to do a good job, a safe job. We got to address the issue of abuse towards pharmacists. Perhaps this is through public education, stricter policies, different laws. But what do you think? You know, these are just a few of the suggestions that I've been involved with on an organizational level, but also from an association and academic level. I think collaboration is the future, but what suggestions do you have to solve this issue? Please, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. Look, at the end of the day, pharmacists don't hate giving vaccines. They don't hate helping people. What they hate is feeling overwhelmed, undervalued, and unable to provide the level of care that they know patients deserve. The way forward isn't to stop expanding pharmacy practices. It's to make sure that the expansion happens in a way that supports pharmacists rather than burning them out. It's creating an environment where pharmacists can thrive, not just survive. Heck, because that's not even happening right now. I mean, they are literally burning out. They are killing themselves slowly for the sake of trying to do a good job. The next time you hear about pharmacists pushing back about new responsibilities, remember, it's not because we don't care. It's because we care so much that when they want to make sure they give us more work to do, we want to do the job right, not poorly. This is a complex issue, and we've only scratched the surface, but I hope that this gives you a better understanding about the challenges our pharmacists face. And the next time you, a lawmaker, an association board member, are talking about the resiliency of our profession and how we need to beef up our workforce to be more tougher, please remember the demands that are being placed upon them. And by the way, if you ever need assisting with getting out of a toxic work environment, hey, securing a work environment is exactly what we do at the Happy PharmD. Honestly, it's been our life's joy of helping pharmacists discover what they love and finding a career that you actually want to wake up to. So check out our workshop. It's called Offer in 6, and I teach a small group of pharmacists every single week to share the steps that you need to take to stop doing the things that aren't working in the job market and discover what you love and find great opportunities where you have a better chance of getting interviews and job offers. So until I see you in the next video, stay curious and take care.